The last time I made a video like this was when I was still a not so good of a developer. But now I am still that, but 5% better. Although I still have the specialty of generating 100 bugs per minute. Anyway, for the particle pack, I'll be using 2 particle packs. The Bingus particle pack, which I've been using for a while now, and the particle pack someone gave me with a concerning name. This game will also be on copy lock, so you can go grab the garbage I will make or something. Anyway, let's go straight to making the skills. Also, just so you know, this isn't 12 hours straight. I take breaks in between. I am not that insane yet. For the first skill, I'll be starting this challenge with a bang. Quite literally. I'll be making my favorite Nobel Phantasm, Quetzalcoatl's Ultima Tope Patada. I started off with the particles, adding a sunlight particle for the core, then added surrounding blazes that I squashed to look like gusts of fire. I also added some particles to the floor and completed the thing. Next, I did the animations using Moon Animator, which is a charge up to a large jump. After working maybe a bit too long on the animations, I did another set of particles for the aura. So now the only thing left will be a massive explosion, and so I just made that. Now I'll stop the timer here for a sec. I encountered a weird bug and I have no idea what caused it. If you jump or turn, you just get flinged. So I stopped doing the skill and tried fixing this thing. Now back to the skill, I just twined a big explosion and it is done. That took me 50 minutes, so I almost used up about an hour. Now the next skill is a rush skill. I made the effects first as usual, which are eye slashes and stuff. Next, I did the animations, which didn't take me long, and grabbed the cane mesh from the toolbox, since this skill is based on Brook from One Piece. The result was an underwhelming dash. And being the single-celled organism I am, my solution was to add more particles, which I am not sure if it works. You know what definitely does not work? This. Damn, they did let the voice of love take them higher. After that phenomenon, I added an ice effect, and the skill is finished. Next up is a range move based from Bleach, Byakuya Senbonzakura Kageyoshi. So I grabbed a bunch of petal looking particles and slapped them into an invisible part as usual. Then made a short stuffed animation. And obviously, a funny bug happens. Why am I like this? I fixed the bug and finished the skill. It ended up being mid, although I'm satisfied with that. Next up is Bowel Hunting, a slash move, which I struggled to do since I am bad at making slashes. Like, this is not very good. I somehow salvaged it to look a bit decent. Now all it needs is the animation and a hit effect. And so I made the spinning slash animation, then added some blood splattering effect, and the skill is pretty much finished. I still had about 15 minutes of time for hour 3, since the only thing that took long in the skill was making the slash particles. So I worked on improving the first skill. I tried adding a camera effect, but it didn't really go that well. Although I eventually arrived at an effect I am satisfied with.
What you know about rolling down in the deep?
For the next skill, I figured, why not torture myself by making a grab move? And so I chose Benimaru's iconic Crimson Moon. I started off with the mid-particles, which are mostly circles and the crack. I then animated it by animating two dummies in front of each other, then added the lighting effect by adding color corrections. I wanted to make it a one-shot so bad, since it's cool, but that would be too unfair. I also adjusted the animations a bit to fit the timing better, and the skill is done. And surprisingly, I didn't encounter any bugs, so I made this skill faster than I expected. The next skill is another AoE thing. Well, I make use of 9 particles to feed my particle addiction. The reference skill will be All Might's United States of Smash. I started with the startup effects, then immediately went into the Big Boy Tornado, which consisted of 6 particles to form some wind and debris, because I am insane. I finalized the skill by adding an impact frame and a knockoff. The skill is basically done. Next up is a skill I've wanted to make ever since I've started Roblox Studio, Incinerate. I started with the startup effects, which are concentrated flame particles, and it looked better than I expected, since I was expecting something bad in the first place. But I somehow got a satisfying result. And being the psychopath I am, I added a lot of weights and of course, in usual fashion, it bugged. A dummy somehow got attached into my body. Very wacky. I am too much of an idiot and forgot that the effects were welded onto a dummy. Anyway, I am pretty proud of the results. The next skill is from the only mech anime I've ever finished, Gurren Lagann. And that skill is of course, Giga Drill Break. I first took a drill model from the toolbox and messed around with it. I welded it into a dummy and started animating. And by animating, I meant duplicating keyframes. I had the base of the move done, but it doesn't feel impactful at all. So I worked on trying to make the skill look better. And obviously, my solution was to add more particles and succumb to insanity. And it worked somewhat. I've also added a small explosion thing to add to the impact. The next skill would be another grab move to waste my time on. Roy Mustang's Revenge. Now, once again, I'll be reusing and modifying the flame particles I've made for Genos, since I still do like it. Then add and modify a few particles, and we have a totally not reskinned and stolen particles. Up next, I worked on the animation, which took maybe a bit too much time. My butt even started to go numb. Anyway, just the animation itself took 35 minutes. Since I also had to animate the hit animation. Although the animations aren't really so special. It just took me a long time because I am not a good animator yet.
Bruh. Bruh.
So I got to a result I am satisfied with and proceeded to the next skill. The next skill is a simple evasive. Double axle, where you turn red and dodge stuff, basically. Most of the time making this script was actually scripting it, and of course, it bugged a bit, but that's fine.
Okay.
Also, since I can't be bothered to make actual after images, I just use 2D stuff. Definitely not just because I can't make after images. So I decided to torture myself and try to make a visually impossible skill. Excalibur Morgan. Why did I choose to do this? I don't know, maybe I'm masochistic. Anyway, just the effects for the sword itself was already hard enough to make. I kept on adding more and 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 more particles until it has gotten to a point of becoming unrecognizable. I made the animations. The skill turned out okay, also does 80% damage because why not? I also made it change the game's lighting because why not? Now, next is not from an anime, but from an anime game. And of course, it is Genshin Impact. The almighty Raiden Shoguns, also known as Akachi. First, I made an eye particle, then surrounded it with some aesthetic purple lightning.
Nice.
Then I added more supporting particles, then the main beam. I then just reused the animation because why not? And I might have made it a bit too OP, so I adjusted the damage. Next up is a skill I made just because one of the particles from the pack resembles this skill. And I completed the effects quite fast since the particles doesn't need much exaggeration. Anyway, I grabbed the katana mesh and swiftly made animations and it bugged. It one-shots. Wow. Although it was easily fixed. And now it's done. And looks nothing like the anime. Next is another rush skill. And this time a flame-based one. Shinra's Adola Burst. I started once again with the subpar fire effects, then attached it onto a dummy's feet. And I started animating, and that's it. I reused the explosion effects from the drill break skill. For this skill, I decided to use a dead tree mesh, then add 2 particles, and the rest is me figuring out how to even make this skill in the first place. At first, I got whatever this is. It's supposed to resemble some sort of jutsu. I got something that slightly resembles one after I figure out how math.random works because I suck at math. I finally gave up trying to make it look better because I am tired of seeing this tree model get flinged for 30 minutes. You can also move Thicket with other moves. Anyway, that's it, I give up. After that mental torture, I grabbed a chariot for a skill I can probably make. Then I scripted a bit and made the foundations of the skill. Then I added some lightning effects to make the skill visually better. And some other fancy stuff, and we have my favorite servant, Iskandar's Chariot Rush. Next up is another ReZero skill, Shamak. The particles were easy enough to make since it's just dark smoke, a lot of them. Now, this skill is an evasive and it also makes you invisible. While this skill is active, you can also use skills. And if that doesn't seem powerful enough, it gives you iframes and a speed boost. And I slightly increased the smoke's range too, although the cooldown is quite long. The next skill is a Demon Slayer move, which are Tengen's fireworks. Starting off with a mediocre explosion, then added some stuff. And I also added some weird looking fireworks. And then added Tengen swords from the toolbox, then started animating. The animation is basically just 1 second, so making it was fast. And the sword started floating around, which I fixed relatively quick. Anyway, it has a medium range and a low cooldown. So, it's finally the last hour. And I am not sane anymore. So I'll probably end this challenge with an OP skill. Since I've been playing the new Honkai game recently, I figured why not make a skill from the original one. And so I did. I started with the portal particles, which are just cool looking circles. Then I made the explosion effects and connected them with beams. After finalizing the effects, I worked on the animations. Although since making the effects took me a bit long, I had to rush the animations to finish the skill. So that's it. It took me multiple days to make this video since I only had about 2 to 3 hours of free time every day. At the end, I managed to make 19 skills. I also added a scuff mobile sport. So go comment your favorite skill or something. Making this video was tiring and got me burnt out a lot, so I still need to mentally recover from this.